Good evening, everyone. So I guess we are in the second episode of our front-end development. So if you have not attended the very first episode, please do get back with face prep and please look at the very first recording also. We have one more video added about the basics of HTML. And this is the second version that we'll be getting along with. This is CSS. What will be going on with this particular session would be CSS. So initially, before starting with CSS, we had so many troubles in figuring out which style sheet would we be preferring for our HTML page. Is it Bootstrap or is it CSS? Okay. Anyhow, there are like Bootstrap admirers also who would say all the plus points of Bootstrap and also who would say the benefits that we have in terms of Bootstrap. Okay, but comparing Bootstrap and CSS, we have one additional features which is getting added to CSS. Okay, that is in terms of flexbox and grid. So we'll get to that part a little later. Okay, we will be covering what is flexbox here, and we'll also see how to interpret between CSS and also Bootstrap. Okay, so now most of the companies are preferring CSS. The reason behind it is like the way of usage that we have. Okay, it is very simple and the user response, okay, the responsive website, everything would be like very smooth in terms of CSS. So most of the companies have been preferring CSS as their styling. Okay, so the style sheet which they prefer, that would be like CSS. Okay, rather going with Bootstrap. So what is CSS? CSS, the expansion stands for like cascading style sheet. Okay, so in by default we'll have to what we'll have to know the basics of HTML to learn this particular CSS sections here, because this is just this is the continuation of the previous episode that we have, HTML version that we have. So inside that we'll have like so many elements or tags that we call it as. Okay, we might call individual tags to style it also. So we'll get along with everything in this particular section. But if at all, if you take it this one as the very first episode, you are wrong. You'll have to go through the very first episode of ours, that is the basics of HTML, and only then you'll have to get to this particular video here. And this is for absolute beginners. This particular video is for absolute beginners. Fine. And if you have any prior knowledge of CSS, you can use all these concepts to refresh your knowledge on CSS. CSS differs from person to person. Yes, obviously, I might prefer a way of styling. Okay, and one another person might also prefer the same way of styling in a different way, in a different aspect way. So for achieving a specific web page or for achieving a specific style sheet, we don't have to follow a single standard, or you might not have to follow a set of specific standards. You can reach to the conclusion in as many ways as you can. You can use a class selector or ID selector. You can go with a type selector. You can go with as many different ways for achieving the style sheet here. Fine, you don't have to follow. So even in here, I'll not be specifying, or I'll not be forcing you to use only a specific format of styling CSS here. Fine, this is just the basics of CSS, so you can explore all the other pattern. What all patterns do we have in CSS? You can try exploring that by your own experiments that you have built. Fine, and it has an extension of .css. Fine, as we had for HTML file, the extension would be .html. Here CSS would have an extension of .css. Okay, and apart from that, the root styling sheet, or I would say like for how many so ever pages that we have, we can have only one style sheet, or you can have as many style sheet as you want. Okay, but then I would say like I would prefer like if you have one style sheet for all the HTML pages, I think it would be better, or it would be easy for us to navigate as well. Fine, and you will have to make sure that you always link your style sheet with your HTML page as well. Fine, so these are some basics that you need to know about CSS before entering inside the main course. So the requirements, absolutely for this requirement we would need an editor, the same as that of what do we say, a HTML file, we would need an editor, and we would also need a browser. Okay, the editor, it would say like, what is the use of the editor is like, again, style sheet, you cannot simply create an extension of .css and you can, so for styling as well, you'll have to call specific elements, be it a tags or class, whatsoever it might be, which can be made easier in terms of any editor. Okay, again, editor implies we can go with a VS Code, Visual Studio, or it can be Sublime editor, or it can be Atom, or it can be any other editors, even it can be Notepad also. But then again, I'll repeat, I would never prefer a Notepad at all, because when you try to become a developer, as easy as you can code, okay, as easy you have the image suggestions. So in the last episode, I was very clear in explaining about the HTML shortcuts and also the suggestions that we get as we type each and every tag. In the same way, we'll have to have as many suggestions when it comes to CSS also. Okay, so in that case, I would prefer editors. Here I'll be using VS Code, Visual Studio Code, because that I feel like that is convenient for all the shortcuts that we use. And even the next most important requirement is the browser, or I would say like the first requirement would be the browser and the second requirement would be the editor. The reason why I say browser is most important is like, we'll have to see all the changes, whatever the changes that we do or whatever the styling that we do, we need to check it with browser as well. We'll have to see if at all if the changes is approved by the browser also. For example, when we take animations, a few animations in CSS would not be supported by Mozilla. Okay, a few animations would not be supported by Chrome. So in that case, we'll have to take appropriate tags, or we'll have to call the appropriate styling tags to go with the animations as well. Okay, so browser will also be a very important requirement for this. And internet connections, I would not say if at all we require internet connections also, because we'll have to serve so many styling elements that we have to. Okay, so I would say like in basic internet connections, whatever the basic internet connections that we have is also mandatory. Or even if at all if you are very very well versed in terms of CSS, you would not require that one as well. Okay, but then if at all if we lag in any basic elements, or if at all you cannot find the styling in any basic elements, you would require internet connection to surf, to search in Google as well. Fine. And the next most important reason why do we need internet connection is like, suppose if you are taking any background images from the internet, or if at all if you are preferring any what the same way links at all, no, in such cases you will have to have active internet connections to make this a success. Fine. So basic internet connection is also a requirement, is also a partial requirement. Okay, again I'll say like this is an optional requirement here, it is not mandatory. Fine. So we'll get along with CSS. So when we start with CSS, we have like three different styling for my web page. Okay, we have three different stylings. First is inline styling, which is definitely not recommended. What is inline styling is like, as we write a document in next to the tag itself, HTML tag itself. For example, I'll show you. Yes, I do have it here. Yes, fine. Or let me even open it through my terminal. I always have the habit of opening whatsoever the content that I have via terminal. You don't have to panic. You can straight open it with the tags that you have also. Okay, or straight getting inside the. So I'd have like all whatsoever the elements that I have here, and I'll have to go with code space dot. Code space dot is a basic command that we have to open Visual Studio from my terminal itself. So it opens the relevant content that I have here. Fine. So I'll try eliminating all these values here. Fine. Yes. So this is how I have my basic HTML version here. So I have like few basic contents that I have written also. So I think most of the content is the same that I used for the previous video also. Okay. So for example, if at all, if I'll have to go with inline styling, what would I do is like I'll try extending this HTML tag. I'll say like some style. Okay, and I'll say like color, and I'll say blue. Okay, or went with something else. So I'll say blue. Okay, I'll give some color. This is inline styling, where the styling is limited only to this particular line. That is my seventh line alone. Okay, my styling would get limited only to this seventh line alone. Whereas I cannot use the styling for any other tags or any other elements inside my HTML page at all. So this is a worst styling terminology that we can prefer. Most of the websites would also prefer inline styling. I would say like this is a worst practice. As you become a developer, this is a very worst practice. If at all, if you'll have to see the change, if it is getting affected in my web page or not, or in a browser or not, in such cases I would prefer inline styling. So this is inline styling. Okay, we would never prefer inline styling at all unless otherwise you're a junior programmer. Okay, I'll see the change also. Fine. So let me try eliminating this first. I'll save this. I'll run. Fine. So yes, this is a basic page that I have. Okay, this is the page that I have. About me, I'm Kannan, I'm a front-end developer, I'm a foodie. And I had a few questions from my friends as well. Why do you say that you're a foodie? Yes, I'm a foodie, and I'm proud of it as well. Yes, so this is the page that we have, and I'll try including the same styling also right now. So what happens? Yes, as you can see, the heading 1 alone, okay, H1 alone would carry a styling, a different styling, that it is like changed to a blue color. Okay, this is inline styling. Again, I'll say that inline styling is not preferred unless otherwise if you want to see any changes in the same place itself. Okay, so this is inline styling. Okay, we would never prefer inline styling at all. And the next one would be like internal styling. So internal styling is like we don't have to go with an external sheet at all. In the same HTML page, we can go with internal styling also by using a style tag. Okay, so we have a specific tag called a style tag where we'll have to include this style tag inside my head of my HTML document, and inside the style tag as well, I'll give the styling content, whatever the content that I'll have to give along. Okay, for example, no, what will I do is like so here I'll go with my style tag also. So I hope you remember the shortcut for introducing a tag, right? You just have to type the tag name without the angular brackets, so that would give an opening and the close bracket here. Fine. So this is preferred. This is the shortcuts that we have when we prefer any online editors or any editors, not online editors, any editors. Okay. Whereas you would not get the same comfort in terms of Notepad. Okay, I don't have any deep hatred towards Notepad that I'm saying not to use Notepad at all. But then this is something which I would prefer in terms of developer perspective. Fine. So here I would give like H1. H1 is the element that I need to tag, and inside this I'll give the styling, whatever that I need to include also. So this is internal styling. Fine. Okay, again you can see the change here. Fine. So rather I'll make it as red so that you can see the change. Yes. Okay, because we use the same styling here also, right? So we might even have a confusion that if it is this styling or this styling. So I changed the color to red. Here we had blue, here it is red. So this is internal styling, where my styling is limited inside my HTML document itself. This is also preferred. This is preferred only in a few cases. Okay. Again, style sheet, when you are building a complete website, okay, a whole website or so, you will not have your style sheet limited to only 3 lines or 4 lines. You would have as many style sheets or as many stylings as preferred. Okay. So in such case, I'll go with the latter case. Okay. The third one here, which is style sheet. Okay. This is the last case which I'll have to go with style sheet. So style sheet, what would we do in terms of style sheet is like, we'll have an external style sheet in the name of style.css or whatsoever the names that you prefer. But then the universally used name is like style.css. Fine. So you'll create a new file called as style.css and you'll give all the stylings in that style.css file. Fine. So here I have the style.css file here, as you can see. Okay. So I've created a new file. Okay, style.css. Even if it is not, I can also create one more, style1.css. Okay, but then like I suggested, if at all, if you have one style sheet for all the HTML documents, it is preferred. Okay, so that you don't have to open whichsoever the style sheet that is corresponding to every HTML document. So in this case, I can go with style1.css. Fine. So you can create style sheet like this also, but for avoiding confusion here, I'll try eliminating that. So I have style CSS here. Okay, I'll remove all the content that I have so that it is not limited at all. So here I can go with whatsoever the styling that I had to prefer also. Okay, so what is the styling? How do we have to start with styling? Okay, we'll get in depth with styling. So CSS syntax. This is CSS syntax. First, I need to select the place where I need to include my styling. Okay, that is selector. I'll have to include my selector first. So this is, as you can see, P is a selector and it is supported with an open curly bracket and a close curly bracket, open block quotes. And inside that, I'll have to give the style, whatsoever the style that I prefer, in a key value pair or what we call it as property value pair. Okay, so which property must you adjust and what is to be adjusted? How is it to be adjusted? So that is the CSS syntax. Fine. So first thing, as you can see in the image itself, the first always corresponds with the selector. I need to go with the selector. I need to choose a selector. Which segment of my HTML document is to be styled? That is the first thing that I'll have to be selecting. Okay. So in order to go with selectors, we have like different selectors here. Okay. So first would be like a universal selector. Okay, what is universal selector? Universal selector, as the name suggests, it selects everything. Okay, it selects everything inside the whole page. Whatsoever the elements that we have in terms of the display view, whatever the elements that you have after the body tag, so that would all be considered, and that is called as a universal selector. So how would you go with universal selector? Is like, for example, how would you go with universal selector? Is like you'll have to go with star. So hope you know the importance of star as well. Okay, star implies it selects everything. It would never leave anything at all. It would select everything. Okay, even if at all in your library, okay, in a normal folder, if you have to display all the contents as irrespective of hidden files or so, no, what would you do is like you'll try searching for star. That would display all the elements. Okay, this is in a normal Windows system. Okay, and you open a certain folder and you have to display all the elements inside the files. No, what would you do is like you'll have to search for star. So star by default it implies like it is an universal selection tool or selection character. I must say it as. Okay, so star is a universal selector, and here I can give my basic styling, whatsoever the stylings that I have to give. Now, for example, the whole page should be in a specific font style. Okay, so what will I give? It's like font family. You don't have to worry about what is a tag that we give here. Okay, I'll say you what is a font family and everything. For example, I have to change the font style of all the text that I have in my web page. So I'll select whatsoever the content that I prefer also. So I'll give sans serif. No, fine. So star is a selector and it is supported by open and close curly brackets. Okay, block quotes. And inside this, I can give whatsoever the styling that I'll have to perform with property and a value pair. So property implies font hyphen family, and this is a style that I have. Okay, whatever the style that I have to prefer. So font family, and I can give like a background color. Okay, so that is not preferred. Background color is not preferred. What else can we have? We can have a margin 0. Okay, margin 0 implies by default you would not have any margin at all. So all these cases I'll say what is it later. Okay, so before saving my style sheet, I'll show you what is the difference that I have. So this is my page. Okay, so by default it is in a default font style. Okay, right now I'll save. Even now you'll not see any change here at all. Even now you'll not see any change at all. Can anyone can you spot the error here? What is the error that we made? We have made a styling option here. Okay, I gave the font family to be like sans serif. For sans serif, this is not sans serif. The letter the font style that we see here is not sans serif at all. Okay, it is Times New Roman or whatever the basic default styling that we have towards the font. Okay, you can see like there is no change in my font style at all. The reason is like we did not link the style sheet with my HTML document. See, I have two individual files. This is HTML file and this is my CSS file. I don't have any link between. I don't have a bridge between my index.html and style.css. Or I'm not instructing my HTML file to have the style sheet which is preferred in style.css also. So here, what should you do is like you'll have to go to head, okay, and you'll have to link your CSS file also. So for that, if you type link, you will have all the suggestions here. Fine. So link atom, link CSS, link favicon. So here, what is our suggestion? We'll have to go with link CSS. So when I click link CSS, my emit suggestions would by default invoke whatever the style sheet that I have used here. Okay, so my style sheet's name is style.css, so style.css is included as of now. Okay, so I'll save the file right now and you can see the change here. Can you see the change? So from the previous font what we had and the font what we have right now, I hope you can see the change. Okay, so this is the impact that we have when we try linking the CSS sheet also, style sheet also. For now, I'll show you the difference by commenting it out. Okay, I've commented and I'll include one more font family, that is color. Okay, I'll give the color as what can we give? I'll give brown, or I'll give yes, I'll give brown. Fine. So here I don't have the style sheet at all. I've commented it out. Okay, that implies you don't have the link. Better, no? I'll try removing this. Okay, I've removed my style sheet as of now. So as you can see, you would not find any changes here at all. But then after me linking my style sheet, okay, you can see the entire text getting changed to the required font style, and also the color would also change by default. Okay, so star, as the name prefers, star is a universal selector. So whatever the styling that you go with star, that is for universal selector, my entire styling would get changed. Okay, so it would never leave anything behind at all. Entire styling would get changed. So I'll remove my color here. Okay, so this is universal selector, the very first selector that we have. So universal selector, when would we use this? Like if at all my whole page needs to have a common margin. Okay, when we need to have a common margin or common spacing, or the common font style, or in such cases we would prefer universal selector. Okay, for example, what can we say? You can see Facebook's font style. Okay, the entire font style of Facebook would have a specific font family preferred. Okay, so Facebook's page, no, it would prefer the same font family for everything. So in such case, I'll go with universal selector. Okay, and the next is type selector. Type selector is easy again. Okay, whichsoever the type that I have to select, that is type selector. Okay, what is type selector by default is like, for example, this is my HTML document. In this, I'll have to style just my H1. Okay, that is my heading one. Okay, I just have to style my heading one. In such case, what should I do is like I'll have to prefer the type, whichever the type that I have to go on with. So H1 is the type that I have to go on with, and I'll open and close the block quotes. So here I can give the styling also, color. Okay, I'll give red color. This is type selector. Okay, whichsoever the tag that I need to choose. For example, I can choose paragraph, or I can choose H3, or I can choose strong. I'll show you the difference also. So here I've selected H1. Okay, that is heading 1 alone, and I've styled it also. So as you can see, all the other content would be in black, but just this heading 1 alone would be in red. Okay, same way I have a strong content also. So I hope I said what is the use of strong instead of bold. Bold is not semantically used as of now. So strong is used for bolded texts. Okay, in such case what would I do is like I'll select just the strong elements. Okay, so how would I do? I'll just have to type a strong. Okay, so it gives me in the suggestions itself, open block quotes, and I'll give the color. The reason why I give color often is like this is something where I can show what is the change or what is the styling that I have chosen here by default. If at all if I give font family, or if at all if I give the font size and everything, you would not see the difference by default. Okay, a few people would find there might be minute difference if I choose font family or font size or anything of that sort. So that is why I go with color. Okay, but then styling does not prefer just the color here. Okay, I'll give color as blue. Fine. So here you can see like all the strong texts as what blue color. Okay, I'll show you what all the so I have strong Pizza Hut. Okay, so what would I do is like I'll better make it this way. No? I'll split the screen. For better results, I'll make the changes here, and you can see the changes parallelly also. But when it comes to a certain segment, I'll have to divide the page. I'll have to use a different selector also. So please do bear with me as of now. So here, as you can see, all the strong texts would have blue colors. Okay, Pizza Hut and Domino's, Flow, Alfredo. So would have. So this is type selector. Whatever the selector that I'll have to prefer, whatever the tags that I'll have to choose, I'll select just that particular element. Okay, I'll just choose. If at all, if I'll have to choose H3, I'll go with H3. Or if at all, if I'll have to make it as a package, I'll go with div. In such case, I'll prefer whatsoever the type that I have to go on with also. So this is type selector. Type selector would choose everything. For example, how many paragraphs do I have? 1, 2, and 3. Okay, if I go with paragraph type selector, okay, that is okay, if I go with this way, no, it would select all the paragraph irrespective of whatsoever the preference that I have. It would select all the paragraphs. I'll give the color as orange. Fine. So here you can see like irrespective of all the paragraphs that we have, it would select all the paragraphs. Okay, it would never mind where is it, or how deeply it is induced, or is it following any inheritance. It would never mind about anything at all. Okay, it would choose all the paragraphs irrespective of this. So this is a type selector. The next one is like class selector and ID selector. Okay, so these are the other two selectors that we have. Okay, class selector and ID selector. When would we go with a class selector, or when would we go with an ID selector is like there is no big differences between class selector and ID selector. The only thing is like if I'll have to prefer reusability in my code, I'll go with class selector. ID selector is for all unique elements. Okay, for all unique elements. For example, when you take every page, or even when you take this particular slide, no, the slide what you see right now, you would have like CSS selectors. Okay, CSS selectors is something which we know as a heading. Okay, this is the heading. So heading would be in a specific font style, and all the other content, whatever the content that we have after the heading, would be in a separate style. Whatever the content that we have would be in a separate style. So in such case, my heading alone should be in a separate or in a unique fashion. In that case, I'll prefer ID selector. ID selector is always for unique elements. Okay, whereas class selector, if I'll have to repeat the same styling for something else, no, for example, no, what can I can show you ClickBus websites. Okay, I'll show you ClickBus website. Okay, this is the first website that I would choose always. So as you can see here, you have a news. Okay, you have a news. So this is a specific container. Okay, this is a specific container, And below this, again we have one more container which has the same sort of information. Okay, so the styling that I prefer for assume, this is a container, this particular box what you see, right? This is a container, or yes, I'll better what would I do is like, yes. So this is a container that you have. Okay, this is a container. Apart from that, this is a container. So for both the containers, the styling should be same. Okay, and it comes along. Okay, all these three containers should have the same sort of styling. So in such cases, I'll give a class name which would be common for all this. Okay, I'll give a class name which would be used in all these cases also. For example, what would I do is like in this page, no? I'll make everything inside a container. Okay, so for containers, for making it a container, we'll use a tag called as div. Div is nothing but it would group all the content into a single element. Okay, it would group. So here, whatever the content that we have, so I'll have to group it as an individual element. So whatever the elements that we have inside the div is a container, is a package. Okay, so all this no is a package. I'll give a class as what can I give? A class, I'll say like container. Fine. So this entire content that we have is a container. I'll go with one more div here. Okay, I'll give the same class name. So this is how I'll give the class name also. Inside the tag, I'll have to say like class is equal to, and I'll have to say what is the class name inside double quotes. Okay, it is mandatory that you give inside double quotes also, but you don't have to respond in the same double quotes in your style sheet also. Fine. So I'll give the same class name container. So as you can see, whatever the styling that I prefer for this container here, I'll be going with the same sort of styling or the same whatever the styling that I prefer for this particular div also. So inside this, what should I give? It's like I'll give I'll give a h1. Okay, and inside this I'll give some heading. I'll say like welcome to dummy paragraph. Okay, some headings. And inside this I'll give a sample paragraph. No, you know lorem ipsum, right? Lorem ipsum is a auto-generated text that we have in all the default paragraph that we have in all the editors that we prefer. So here I can give the suggestion also. So lorem ipsum of some 15. Okay, so some 15 lines also would. Okay, so here it is. I'll close this and you can see, yes. Okay, it's too much. So what would I do is like I'll take it as lorem ipsum 12. Okay, so whatever the styling that I preferred for this, no, right now I have not given any styling here, so it is by default with that of type selector. Okay, for h1 I'll merge it both. So here for h1 I preferred a separate styling. Okay, for h1 I preferred a separate styling, and for paragraph I preferred a separate styling. Okay, so that is what is used here also. Okay, so for all h1s it would be red in color, and for all the paragraph it would be orange in color. So if I'll have to include, I'll remove all the type selectors here so that you do not find any uniqueness here at all. So if at all, if I'll have to go with the class selector, before that, how would I respond to the class selector in style sheet is like by using a dot operator. Okay, dot and the class name. So what is the class name that we have given? Class name is container. So I'll give the same container here, dot container. Okay, and inside the dot container, I'll give some more other color. No, I'll give color as orange. Okay, so you can see like everything turns into the same orange in color. Fine. So I'll remove this one, or I'll change the name of this one to container 1. I'll change the class name right now. So now you can see container alone would be having the styling of orange colored, but then not the container 1. Okay, container would have a different styling from container one. Okay, this is class selector. Whereas id selector, I would select everything individually. Okay, so if at all, if I have, so here I'll have like about me, no, this is a unique format that I have. Okay, because that is the heading one. So what would I do is like I'll give id and it is about. Okay, id name is about. So in this case, I'll not be reusing this about styling at all. Okay, this particular styling I would not reuse at all. So what would I do is like I'll give I'll have to respond to ID selector, right? ID selector I would be calling by hash. Okay, hash about. And I'll give the color as red. Okay, or orchid. Which color looks good? I'll give red. A very obvious color that you can see the change also. Okay, so I cannot reuse this particular styling, about styling, I cannot reuse it. So id I would prefer only when a case when you have a unique element and you'll have to prefer a styling for that unique element. I would go with id selector. If you ask me which is best, class selector or id selector, which would be the best, that is a very absolute foolish question, I would say. Okay, which selector would you prefer as like, that is based on the category, that is based on the selection element that I have. So if I have a unique element, if I don't have to reuse the styling here, in such case I'll go with id selector. And when would I go with a class selector is like, if I have multiple styling repetitions, in that case I'll go with a class selector. And when would I have to go with a type selector is like, if I don't have anything very obvious, if at all, if I'll have to make a formatting changes for all the paragraphs, in such case I'll go with type selector. Okay, but then the selectors that you prefer would also define what type of programmer you are, what kind of programmer you are. Okay, a very proficient a developer would use all the selectors, whatsoever the selectors that is in existence. He'll use all the selectors whichever corresponds to that particular element. Okay, so this is something what I was saying. Each and everyone would prefer a different styling. Okay, here there would not be any difference if at all, if I go with a class selector also. Class is equal to about. Okay, here I'll have to change this hash to dot. Okay, here because it overwrites, this one content overwrites. Okay, you don't find this difference here. Fine. So it would not create any big differences at all. In my output, it would not show any differences at all. A class selector and an ID selector. But then again, like I suggested, the reusability. I can use this about once again. But if at all, if I give it as an ID selector, it would not. That's all. This is a difference that we have also. Fine. So the next, the other things that we would go on with is like, we would have inheritance that to be taken into consideration with also. For example, what is inheritance is like, you might ask me a question, if at all we have inheritance preferred in this case also. Yes, we have inheritance in here either. Okay, we have inheritance in here either. Where do we have inheritance, or where do we see inheritance by default is like, for example, here you have a paragraph content. Okay, you have a paragraph content, and inside the paragraph you might have, so inside the paragraph you might have a strong element. So here you can see, right? Okay, you might have a strong element. So I'll have to prefer the strong elements that is inside the paragraph. Okay, I'll also show you the difference here. I'll introduce a strong element outside the paragraph also, and I'll give the styling as I'll give the name as dosa. Fine. Okay, so I have a paragraph, a h3, a h3, and apart from that I have a strong element also. So right now I'll remove all the stylings here so that okay, so here you can see like dosa is a strong element, it is not h3. Okay, dosa is a strong element, it is not h3. Fine. So right now what would I do is like, I'll choose the category as a strong, and I'll color the strong elements alone. Okay, so color, and I'll give the color as blue violet. Okay, I'll give the color as blue violet. So what happens in this case? Here you can see like all the strong elements, irrespective of wherever it is, all the strong elements would have a color change here to blue violet. Okay, so right now I should not choose the elements which is inside the packet at all. For example, I should not choose the dosa content at all. The strong elements which is inside the paragraph alone should change the format to like blue violet. Okay, the one which is outside or the one which is very independent, the strong tag, it should not change its styling at all. So how would we go on with? We'll have to exclude, or we'll have to go on with the stylings in such case that I choose paragraph. Inside the paragraph I have strong. Okay, so when you invoke a space here, okay, I have a space, I've given a space. Paragraph is the first type, so inside the paragraph I have strong. I'll have to choose strong elements. Okay, so here I'll give color blue violet. Okay, when you give a space here, you are invoking inheritance, that is the strong content inside the paragraph. Okay, so here I have the paragraph. Inside the paragraph I have, where is it? Oh yes, here it is. Inside the paragraph I have the strong content. I'm choosing just the strong content which is inside my paragraph. Okay, and not the independent strong element at all. Okay, so here you can see the difference. So those would be by default in black color itself. Fine. So this is how inheritance is also being used. Okay, inheritance is not just limited to the type selectors here. You can also prefer class selector. Inside class selector also you can have inheritance. Inside ID selector also you can have inheritance. Okay, so everything. Here I just showed you an example. Okay, so apart from this we have like so many other content also. So for selectors I have a best game that I would always prefer for all my students, which is CSS Diner. This is one game which you can play to be proficient in terms of selectors. See, selector is a very first category, or while entering inside styling, the first thing what you need to know is how to select a specific element. Only after selecting the elements you can go with styling it. Okay, so in such case, this one particular game, CSS Diner, you would struggle for the first 3 levels or 4 levels. So once you get proficient with the game, you will get to know how to be very authentic towards selectors also. How can I select? How can I invoke what reusing of quotes or reusing of styling? Okay, or how can we reduce the number of lines? Everything you will get to know how to use CSS selectors in a well-versed manner. Fine. This is one game that I prefer to all my students. Okay, my tutor, he did not let me inside the program at all unless otherwise I complete this particular game, which has nearly some 28 levels or so. It had been a long time that I played this particular game. So you must complete all the levels to enter inside the class. Okay, so I had to play this game, and it played well also. Fine. I am good in selectors also right now. So you can also try working in this particular game. Fine. And next is like, so that's all about selectors. Fine. So selectors, it is important because we need to select the elements that it needs to be styled with, and only then you'll have to style it accordingly. Okay, so selectors would play a major role. After styling, it would be CSS color and also font. So color, as you might have seen right now, colors, we have like so many different colors inside my basic editor. Okay, and also colors I can go with 2 different ways, or I must say like I have 4 or 3 different ways. How can I give color? Is like either I can call it by name, or I can go with the hex code also. Okay, so what is the hex code for? I'll give like FFFF or 0000. Fine. You can go with hex code also, but hex code would start with hash. Would always start with hash. This is one way of giving color elements. Okay, or even you can go with RGB format. fine. You'll have to specify what is the RGB format for this. So I'll give 0, 0 and 0. Okay, by default it would be black in color, fine. So always I'll have a color picker in my browser also. So inside this I can pick the color whichever I need, okay, whatsoever the color. If at all, if I'll have to clone a particular website, cloning implies producing a duplicate of the same website. For learning purpose, we might also clone specific websites, okay. So in such case, if I'll have to select the colors, I would use the color picker here, and I can prefer any formats. This is a hex code and this is a RGB format. Or if at all, if the color is like very obvious, okay, whatsoever the color that we have, if at all, if the color is very obvious, then we'll go with the name also, okay, orange, red. So whatsoever the color names that we have, no. For example, Spotify. This is one a very good website for beginners to clone, fine. So if I'll have to select this particular color, no, in such case I'll go with this color picker and I'll select the color here. I'll get the hex code here, fine. So this is one way of choosing the code. For now, no, what would I do is like I'll select this hex code and I'll show you in terms of text if it is the same color that we get also. So it is hex code that we'll have to go with hash. So here you can see the color change also. Fine, you'll get a small square that would show what is the color that we have chosen also. So it is like a baby pink. Okay, I would not call it as a baby pink, but then yes, pink. Okay, it is a combination of pink and wheat. So here you can see the same color getting reflected also. Okay, so these are different formats that you call the color element. The same way, if you'll have to go with a background, no, for example, I'll go with body's background. Body is the tag, and so you can select body tag also. So body, inside body, I'll have to go with color. I'll give the color, background color as this particular hex code, no. Here you can see the entire page changes to the same color. Okay, you cannot see this text that we have, right, because it is in the same color that we have to take in also. So as you can see, this would be the basic color, fine. And what else do we have with this, like yes. So if you have to know what is the color, or if at all, if you'll have to know what is the element that we'll have to choose on with, you can go inspect the elements and you can see the color change here either in styles. Okay. We'll have to choose the elements. Yes, you can see the color here also. Fine. So these are some basic contents that you can take on with. These are some so if at all, if you'll have to find the color, if at all, if you don't have this particular color picker, no, that is not a big deal. Okay, you can select the specific element, and you can see what is the change that it takes also. Okay, so right now I'll see what is the color that we have here. So these are images. Okay, these are not colors. But then if you'll have to see what is the color that had been used in something, for example, I'll choose this one. Yes, you can see like the color is not black and it is something different. Yeah, you can see the color here itself. Fine. Div.mh and the color is given as DNDADC. Okay, so you'll get a pop-up menu here, right? This white color pop-up menu that you see. So you'll see the color change here itself, D9DADC, and font family, everything. Fine. So this is some basic ways to find out what the color that is being used. Okay, these are something what you can know by default. And apart from this, you can use this particular inspect elements to see what is the forgotten password also. For example, no, I might have a few websites which would carry my passwords, but then it would be by default it would be like hidden. Okay, it would be dots, completely dots. In such case, I might not know what is a password, or I'll have to give my password to others. Okay, this is a case like where my brother had to use my account. Okay, I need to know what is a password, but then I cannot see the option of like a show password here at all. Okay, again we can go with a simple technique that it is like inspect elements, and you'll have to choose the part which is to be displayed also. So here this is the password, okay, which you'll have to choose, and inside that you will see like input type as password. So change the password to text. Okay, before that let me change my password also. Okay, that showed my password. Okay, that would show the password also here. Fine. So this is how you'll go with, I'll change my password after this video. Fine, better it would be I change my password also. So changing it back to password, it would, everything would be dots. Okay, these are some simple techniques that you have to work on with, okay, in a basic website. Okay, and what else do we have? So this is how you'll know what is the content or how to change the content here, and everything. Fine. And I'll change the color of this one. I'll change the color to red. It would be basic red. Fine. And the next is font family. Okay, so when you take font here, if at all, if you'll have to change the font style of a particular tag, no, you have something called as font family. And for using any particular font style, you will have to choose a font style also. Okay, you cannot randomly type any font style here. As you can see, when I type font family, I'll get a few suggestions in my style sheet also. Okay, apart from this, if at all, if you'll have to prefer any other font families, then you'll have to import that particular font inside your system, and then only then you can use it. Okay, so these are the default font families that we have. Apart from this, I cannot prefer my own font family also. For example, instead of Times New Roman, if at all, if I give Time New Roman, that would not work. Okay, so Times New Roman should be entered as Times New Roman, which comes under the suggestion also. So for all these suggestions, I prefer the editor. Okay, this is one case that we that shows the importance of the editors also. Fine. So that is how you go with font family. Apart from this, we have so many other fonts also, like sans serif and Times New Roman. We have included the font family here. So right now I'll change back to Times New Roman. Okay, you can see like the paragraph strong element would alone be inside Times New Roman here. All the other content would be in the same way. Fine. And we have a line height also. Okay, for example, I'll choose the container one, dot container. And we have something called as line height also. Okay, so in here I can choose the line height. Okay, whatsoever the height that corresponds between each and every line here, I can choose my line height also. So what would be the line height? I'll give it as 2 em. I'll explain you what is em and how do we go with em also. I'll have to save the content, and once when I see the change here, you can see the content, every content would get displaced. Okay, that is from the normal space that we have given. Okay, it would be double the space that it is leaving also. So this is em. Okay, em is a measuring unit that we use inside a style sheet. Okay, apart from this, we have pixels. Okay, 20 pixels. So 20 pixels, this is 20 pixels. I'll reduce the pixels also to show you the difference. I'll give it as 10 pixels right now. You can see the change here, right? It would be like 10 pixels. This is 10 pixels. I'll give 100 pixels right now. Okay, but then this would be like in a common, the common spacing. Okay, so this is the spacing that we prefer. Line height, the space between each and every line inside my paragraph element or whatsoever the elements that we have. Okay, line height. I can go with 2 different units or multiple. There are more than 2 units here, but then the most commonly used is like 2 units. First is pixel. Okay, pixel, it would not have any px is pixel. So pixel, it would not have any dependencies by default. For example, if at all, if you'll have to clone a particular website, you'll have to see what is the size of a particular font here. In such case, you will go with pixel. Okay, if you have a specific unit and you have to change the unit, in that case we'll go with pixel. And the next one is em. Okay, what would we use em is like? Em is nothing but the comparison between the normal size to that of existing size. Okay, if I give 2 em, okay, if I give 2 em, the meaning is like from the normal size, okay, from the existing size, it would be twice the normal size. Okay, right now I'll give line height as like 1 em, which is common, normal one. Okay, I don't have any difference at all. It is normal. I'll give 2 em. So what happens when I give 2 em is like from the normal spacing what I had, it is twice the difference. Okay, this is 2 em. And I'll give 1.5 em also. Okay, we have so many different formats, right? I'll give 1.5 em also. So when I give 1.5 em, you can see the difference is like 50% of 50% has increased from the previous. I'm not entering inside max right now. So 1 em implies the normal format and 2 ems twice the previous format, and it goes on. Fine. So these are the two commonly used. Apart from this, we have REM and percentage, and we have like so many other measuring units also. So we'll see as it goes along with. Fine. So these are the normal text formats that we'll be using. Okay. Apart from that, we have like font size. I can increase the font size, and they would prefer a few text here: large, larger, medium, small. So when you are building a new website, and if you'll have to use any of these, that is fine. Okay, but then for cloning you'll have to be very specific. So font size, what I'll give is like, I'll give 25 pixels. Pixels by default it would be very small. So I'll give 25 pixels. Okay, after me making it 25 pixels, you can see the change here. Fine. If I make it as 15 pixels, so these are some font attributes. Okay, apart from that, I have like a font. So just when I type it as font, I'll have like so many different variant also. Font weight. So font weight would make it a little bolder or any of that sort. Font style. So when I give font style, it would make it as italic, normal, bold. Okay, all such formats would be like font style. I'll make it as italic to see what is happening here. Yeah, you can see, right? And font weight would make it bold as you want. Okay, so everything it goes along with the name. Okay, just when I type it as font, okay, you'll see all the suggestions. Okay, and here you can see like Mosquit and WebKit. I'll say what is WebKit and Mosquit as it goes on with. So yes, so this is about font and color. Okay, but apart from that, we have like colors. No, for colors, for if at all if you are building a website, and you'll have to prefer the colors. The color should not be like very fantasy colors. Okay, it should not be like eye-pretending one, or it should not be very bright also. You'll have to prefer the colors either. For colors, you have like plenty of websites available for choosing the color combinations that you must choose also. And apart from that, we have font family as well. The next is like box model. Okay, so box model is something what we must know for spacing. Okay, from the first content to the last content, what is the box that we'll have to prefer, or what is the margin that we'll have to prefer is nothing but box model. Okay, so inside this we have like two different formats that we'll have to understand. First is margin, and the next is padding. By default, every beginners would have this confusion. What is a margin and what is a padding? Apart from that, you will understand what is a border also. So I'll explain you with a simple diagram. Yes, I'll open a sketchpad. So I'll take a normal website. So if at all, if I take like my normal website of this sort, okay, I'll take my normal website which is of just a minute. Okay, so I have my website. This is my normal web page. Okay, the whole web page. This is how it looks like, for example, and this is my whole width. And inside this, if I have a content, I have one content here, which is like, so this is the first content that I'm going to place. Okay, this is the content. Okay, this is a contents border, and inside this I'll place the content. Okay, for example, it can be an image. Okay, it can be an image and it can be the text also. So this is my border. This box is my border. Okay, so the distance between the border and the content is nothing but padding. Okay, the distance between the border and the content inside is padding. The distance between the page's start and also the border is nothing but margin. Okay, this is margin. Pardon my handwriting, and this is my padding. I hope you know the difference. This is margin and this is padding. For example, no, I'll show you what is margin and also padding with the help of this one. Okay, and border, I can also draw a border for this elements that we have also. Fine. I'll show you the difference. By default, in every website, okay, in all the websites, you can see some box of this sort. Okay, when you inspect the elements, you can also see a box of this sort. I'll show you here. Okay, this is nothing but the box model. Okay, you can see the margin, border, and padding. As of now, I have not introduced any margin, or I have not introduced any border, or I have not introduced any padding. So you'll see all dashes here. Fine. If at all, if I take Spotify. Okay, so here I'll try to inspect the elements also. In such case, in this case, you'll see the box model perfectly installed. Fine. So this is my box. Okay, margin, you cannot see the margin, border, and padding. For example, I'll choose a specific element here. I'll choose this one in specific. Here you can see like again. Okay, so the interior one is nothing but the content. Okay, the one which is extremely interior is nothing but the content. And I have like padding, so I'll have a border by default. Okay, here I don't have any padding that is preferred at all. So I'll have like a small space between the border and my content here, that is padding. Okay, I'll have a border and I'll have a margin also. Fine. So I'll show you what is the difference practically. Okay, so what will I do is like I'll go with dot container here, and inside the container what will I do is like I'll give margin as some I'll give it as some 40 pixels. I'll remove this. I'll give it as 40 pixels. So here you can see like the entire margin from the top, from the bottom, I'll give it as 100 pixels to show you the difference by default. Okay, 100 pixels. So here from the top, from the bottom, left to right, all the sides you can see the difference, that there would be a small space that is left behind also. Okay, this is margin. Okay, now I'll go with border. So what will I do is like I'll introduce border, and a border. So if at all, if you want a line by default, you'll have to say like what is the lines width. So I'll say the lines width as some 5 pixels. And what should it be? Okay, should it be a dotted line or should it be a solid line? I'll introduce it as solid. And what color the border should be of? Okay, I'll give it as red. Okay, I'll give it as red. So what happens is like by default, you can see a border here. Okay, so the distance between the page start and this one would be margin. Fine. And for example, if I'll have to give padding also, so padding, what will I give? Padding, I'll give it some 40 pixels. So right now you can see like from the margin, from the border, I'll have a small distance. Okay, 40 pixel difference. This is nothing but padding. Okay, this is margin and this is padding, and this is nothing but the border. That is box model. Okay, this is margin, border, and padding. Inside the extreme core would be the content that we have. Okay, content that we have. So I can also prefer, it is like if I give margin or if I give padding or if I give border, it is common for all the 4 directions: top, bottom, right, and left. It is common for all the different directions also. If I'll have to give only a specific part, for example, I'll have to give margin left alone, okay, or margin right alone. what will I do is like I'll make all the paragraph a little distant away from all the other content. No? So what will I give is like paragraph. I'll choose all the paragraph and I'll give padding left. Okay, I'll give it as some 40 pixels. Okay, I'll remove this padding here just for now. Okay, or I'll give a small padding, 20 pixel padding. So as you can see, this distance would be 20 pixels, whereas this distance would be 40 pixels. But then the padding would not be for for right, top or bottom. Okay, I can choose in such way. I can choose for all any particular direction also. Okay, same thing applies for margin left, and so for borders as well. Okay, I can choose any preferred margins or border or whatsoever it might be. Fine. This is box model. Okay, and it is very important for the placement of the content as well. Very almost utmost important for the placement of the content. Fine. The next one would be flexbox. So again, to get in depth with Flexbox, it might take an eternity for you to understand what is Flexbox completely. But then to say what is Flexbox, a Flexbox is something that you can make it in a single dimensional way. Okay, either be it row wise or be it column wise, that is preferred. Okay. So first thing what you would have is like this is a unique feature that we have in CSS. Okay, you will always have a fight between Flexbox and also grid. The one who is very proficient in terms of grid would always say like grid is the best one, and if at all if you are very proficient with flex, you'll say like flex is the best. Okay, again it is a fight like that we have from Android and also iOS users. Okay, so the one who uses iPhones would say like iPhones are the best, and the one who uses Android phones would say like Android is the best. But then these two cultures would have its own unique features also inside. Fine. So same thing applies for flex and also grid. Flex is a single dimensional, I would say like it applies everything to a single dimensional way. Okay, whatsoever, it might be row wise or column wise. Okay, horizontally or vertically. That depends on the user. And grid what happens is like it is like a matrix. It changes everything into a matrix. That is a two-dimensional way. Fine. So it would have the preference for rows and columns together. That is grid. Whereas Flexbox, I'll have only one column or only one row. Fine. So to get proficient with Flexbox again, okay, I'll say what is Flexbox. Before that, I'll say how to build a nav bar also. So in all the websites, you'll see a nav bar, right? I'll show you with Crickbus. Okay. So here you have some hover elements. These are called as nav bar. Fine. You'll have it in Spotify. You'll have it in Face Prep. Okay, all the websites, all the common websites would have the nav bar. I'll show you the difference here. Okay, so this is the nav bar. From here I can go to specific elements also, right? So in Spotify again, okay, here it is as a 3 different elements here. Fine. And inside Crickbus it would be like very evident. You can see like these many elements inside nav bar. You'll have it in Snapchat also. Okay, you find yes, I'll have to extend it first. You'll find it here. So all these are called as nav bar. Okay, so for building nav bars, these are list items or these are anchor elements. Okay, I'll say how to build a nav bar just by using flexor or making it as a flex. I'll show you how to make a nav bar. Okay, it is very simple. First thing, what would I do is like so where would the nav bar be? It would always be in the first. Okay, before whatsoever the contents that we have, we would have nav bar. Okay, so I'll take a div. I'll make the class name as navigation. Okay, so especially for nav bars, we have a tag called as nav also. We have a nav tag also. But then since I had been using div for a long time right now, I would use the same div tag here. Okay, I'll give a class name as navigation as well. So you can, if at all, again, like I said, if at all, if you are a developer, you'll use the specific tag elements also. And inside this, I'll give a list elements, ul ordered list. I hope you know the shortcut, right? Ul greater than list. I'll make it as 4 elements here. Ul li into 4. So that creates a ul li, and I'll give all the list elements here. So what all the navbar tags that we have, I'll copy some from Snapchat also. So adverts, spectacles, download. So first would be home, isn't it? And next would be like download. Okay, what else do we have? The last one should be like contact, and third one I can place it as explore. Fine. So these are the list items that we have. So once when I save it, and I'll find the difference in okay, I'll save it first. I'll reload the page. Okay, you'll find the list items here. Okay, but then the list item should be in a same row, right? It should be in horizontally the same row, isn't it? So we'll have to go for styling. How would I style it? Right now I'll have to call the navigation dot navigation. Okay, first thing, I'll have to remove all the dots that we have, bullet points that we have. How would I remove it? Is like I have a style element called as list style, and inside that I'll have every articles. Okay, it can be circle or decimal, or it can be, I'll place it as none, so that I'll remove all the list style here. Okay, it would not remove. Can anyone specify why is it so? It is very obvious that we'll have to select the right element. Dot navigation would select everything that is inside. Okay, but then we'll have to select the list items. How would I select? Is like dot navigation. Inside dot navigations we have unordered list, and for that unordered list the list style should be none. Right now you can see that it is removed. Okay, you'll have to select the specific element to remove. Okay, dot navigation implies whatsoever the content that it is in the first level of navigation. That is, it would consider UL. But then when you go it as dot navigation space UL, that implies inside navigation we have an unordered list. For that unordered list, the list style should be none. Okay, so that would remove all the styles here. Fine. And I'll have to make it in the same row. So I'll have to convert that into flex box. Okay, how would I do? Is like I have an option called as display, and inside that I'll have all such options. Display flex. Fine. So it would convert this entire item into single row. Whatever the items that we have inside the ordered list into a single row. As you can see, it would be in a single row. I'll have to place spaces between, okay, each and every item that it is available. Okay, so home, I'll have to leave a space. Download, I'll have to leave a space. Explore, I'll have to leave a space. So I'll have to leave a space between everything. So what would I do is like, again, I'll give dot navigation, okay, ul li, and I'll give, so here I don't have to give top or bottom, I'll just have to give any one margin. Okay, margin, I'll give left, and I'll give some 20 pixels, no? Decent styling, no? So here you can see like there is a space between everything. And if at all, if all my list items, navbar elements, if at all, if I have all the navbar elements towards the right, it would be fine, isn't it? So again, I have a property for that. That is, inside after display flex, I'll have a justify content, something called as justify content, and I'll have all options here. If I place it in center, okay, that would be in the center of the page. Okay, I want it in the right corner, so I have something called as flex end. Okay, apart from this, I have flex start also, but I'll go with flex end. That is, this entire this would be considered as a flex. Okay, I'll show by inspecting elements. So here you can see like this entire values would be considered as so here this one would be considered as, yes, as you can see this is a whole flex. The one which I have selected right now is a whole flex. In this flex I'll have to place towards the end. So what would I do is like I'll go with flex end. Okay, so I've saved right now and I'll close it. So right now you can see like all the elements have been placed to the right corner. Okay, so here instead of margin left I'll prefer margin right because it is placed in the right, extreme right of the page, right? Okay, right now when I hover over this, hover implies when I place the mouse pointer over this I'll have to change the color or I'll have to change the background or any of that sort. So in such case what would I do is again dot navigation. Okay, inside navigations I have ul, inside you have I have like li, and colon I have hover. Okay, so hover implies on mouse over, that is by default. So on hover what should I do is like I'll have to create a border, I'll have to create a box. Okay, border, and I'll give what can we give, border and 1px solid. I'll give the border color as orange, or let me give it as orange red. Okay, and I'll give padding also. Padding I'll give some 5 px pixels. I'll change the color. Okay, I'll show each and every difference here, and whatever the difference that happens here, fine. So when I move the mouse pointer over that particular element, there would be a box that is generated. Okay, and I'll create box border also, fine. So here you can see like when I hover over this particular element, there is a border that is created. Okay, can you see? Okay, this is the difference that I'll be creating also, and I'll include background color also. Background color I'll give the same orange red so that it would convert into a box here. Can you see? Okay, and finally I'll change the color of the text also. Color I'll make it as white so that it shows the difference as well. Okay, so this is how you'll go with styling. Okay, so colon hover implies when I place my mouse pointer over that particular element is what? Dot hover, colon hover, I'm sorry, colon hover. Okay, you can use it for all the content also. Okay, when I place it, when I place over a button, the button color should change, or when I place it over an image, the image should expand. Okay, you can use it for all such elements also inside. Fine, and I'll change the color of contact alone. Okay, finally I'll change it for contact alone. So contact I'll give it as ID. Okay, because that is important, right? On seeing the websites they must contact us. So I'll change it for contact alone. Finally I'll give the ID name as contact as well. I'll save it here. I'll say that contact or contact colon over. Okay, so the same whatsoever the content that I have taken here I'll include here as well. Okay, so instead of this one I'll change the color as orange, just orange. So as you can see the styling. Okay, so all the colors would change, but then the contact alone would be in a separate color. So these are some basic styling techniques that you must know when you start with style sheet. Okay, when you start with your CSS. So just by using this you can build some basic websites also. Okay, for example I need to change the box borders of everything. No, what will I do is like I'll go with border radius. Okay, you'll have like so many suggestions here. I would prefer go with all the suggestions that is given here also. Okay, try exploring each and every tax. Okay, this is how I learned also. When I built the websites, this is how I learned. I was very curious in knowing what is each and every style element is also. Fine. So here, as you can see, so the box or the radius, box radius, it would not be like as sharp. Fine. It would be like, let me reduce it to 10% to make it very obvious. So you can see like the box's radius would change. Okay, it is not sharp, but then it would be like blunt. Okay, I'll reduce it to 5% as well. Uh, yes. Okay, this would be cool. Okay, this is a minute change that you can see here. Fine. Or if you have to see a very obvious change, I'll take the box border here. Fine. I'll change the border radius. I'll give it as some 10%. Fine. You can see the box would not be like sharp here. Okay. I'll reduce it still more. 5%. Okay. So these are some basic styling techniques that you must know, and also this is how you'll see the difference, how the difference affects the page as well. Okay, so that's all for today, and so if you have any queries, please drop it in the comment box, and I would request you to fill the type form which is given in the description box as well, and for further, so we'll have like face prep for all the queries whatsoever you have, or if you have to step inside any of the development courses, you'll have to go with the ProGrad program. Okay, so in faceprep.in you'll find explore option, and inside that if you go with about ProGrad, you'll find all the programs which is available. So for further more informations, or for entering inside deep with each and every technologies, you'll have to, I would request, if at all, if you can take any of these, you'd find everything in depth. Okay, and whatsoever the queries that you have, please drop it in the comment box as well. So happy learning. Thank you so much.